Welcome to the FNO InsureTech podcast, a place where movers and shakers from all points within the insurance ecosystem gather and discuss all things InsureTech. Here are your hosts, Lee Boyd and Rob Beller.
Hey, podcast world. What? You think you can get rid of us that easy? You think that by not downloading our episode or not listening to it, that means we're going to go away? The answer is no, we're not. It's another edition of FNO InsureTech for your insurance technology edification. Isn't that right, Mr. Boyd?
That's so right, Rob. If nobody listens to us or downloads us, we're still here. It's like if the tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? If you don't download this thing, we're still yapping away. We're still here.
Going to say, if you don't download our podcast, does it exist?
Oh, it exists. And you know that we're talking about something good. And you're just not going to be able to talk about it in your next meeting. And that's why people listen to the podcast.
That's right.
So they have something to talk about in their next meeting.
People listen to our podcast for the same reason we do our podcast, and that is so that we can appear to be intelligent, even when we're not.
We can appear to be.
That's why people listen to our episodes, so that when they sit in a meeting in an insurance organization of one kind or another, they can spout out something.
I listened to this super important industry podcast and I heard something. And everybody's like, oh, you're smart. You know what you're doing. And that's our little gift to society. That's what we give you.
It is. It is. And it's worth exactly what you pay for. Listen to this podcast.
It's a give and take. We give you the knowledge and you give back to us by downloading it. And we appreciate you. And we thank you.
That's right. That's right. In fact, today we have on a group, an organization, a gentleman, Wesley Pergament, CEO and co-founder of Sola Insurance. Have you ever heard of Sola Insurance?
No, I had not heard of them before you had told me about them.
Well, super interesting organization. I thought it was strictly a parametric insurance play, but was I wrong?
Well, and I'll have to be honest, I wasn't able to be on this podcast. And so I'm excited about listening to this one.
You've been a busy beaver lately. Is that fair to say?
I have been. I unfortunately am getting involved in more and more meetings, which has limited my so wonderful time on the podcast. But, that happens. But I appreciate you stepping up, taking this one and conducting the interview.
And Wesley's going to talk all about Sola. It's very interesting kind of origin story and what got him interested in it, which was living through a hurricane. And then I guess that's a spoiler alert.
Like Alexander Hamilton.
And how Sola leverages weather data to reduce fraud, speed up claims, and all kinds of stuff like that. But instead of listening to these two brilliant people,
that's what they all say.
Why don't we listen to somebody who's honestly brilliant, Wesley Pergament, CEO and co-founder of Sola Insurance. Hey everybody, we are here, just me today. Lee is out and about, and we're here with special guest, Wesley Pergament, CEO and co-founder at Sola Insurance. Welcome to FNO InsureTech.
Thanks for having me.
It's great. It's great to have you here. I'm very excited to talk to you today because you represent a super interesting and not well-known section of the insurance market, and that's parametric insurance, which I'm sure we'll talk all about. Some of you might have just heard me say that and say, what the heck is that? But you'll be surprised how interesting and well-established it is. So let's start by asking you, where are you coming to us today from?
So I'm calling in from our headquarters in West Midtown, Atlanta, Georgia.
What does that mean, West Midtown?
So you have right off, for anyone that knows Georgia, right off 75, 85, you have Midtown, and then just 10 minutes to the west of Midtown, you have West Midtown. And it's a great area. It's really been built up over the last 5 or 10 years. Lots of great restaurants, great great walking. And we actually just moved into this new office a few days ago, actually. So,
Oh, congratulations. So is it kind of the cool place to be is West, not not just Midtown, but West
well,
Midtown?
we were in Midtown earlier this year, and we decided to move over to West Midtown. We found a great space with a great view of the city. We're in office, and we're hiring people pretty aggressively, and so just creating a great culture here. So,
Well, that's great. That's great. I know that founded in 2022, right?
yes, that's correct.
So you're about 3 years old and selling policies, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Selling policies and paying claims.
Let's jump in and kind of lay the foundation about what is Sola, what is it that you guys are doing, what is Sola Insurance, and tell us a little bit about the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I'll start with a little bit of an origin story. So I originally grew up on Long Island in New York, and I went through Hurricane Sandy. And ever since then, I've just been fascinated with how natural disasters impact communities. I've worked on a lot of different startups and side projects related to natural disaster recovery. I ended up joining a flood insurance at the time that is now doing something related to financing solutions. So not as much of what I was working on while I was there, but I was specifically brought on and tasked with working on pulling in weather data sets, aerial imagery, and satellite imagery. And I come from more of that engineering background. So I was fascinated with this new technology. And I realized that after these natural disaster events, this data was showing us exactly where the damaged areas are. And that's when I learned a lot more about parametric insurance, being able to use data to trigger claims, ultimately resulting, in theory, in a faster claims process, a less expensive one, and hopefully delivering a better customer experience in terms of what that claims process looks like, instead of needing to send out an adjuster estimating the value of the loss, going back and forth. And so,
And the time.
yeah, exactly. And so I realized that really no one had built out a program specifically related to tornadoes. And I thought tornadoes were a perfect case study, simply because the tornado path is a very defined area of damage, right? Like when you have a wildfire, hurricane, I mean, hurricanes can cover the entire state of Florida, for example.
Sure.
But when you have a tornado, it's very clear about the path of that tornado. And so I thought it was a perfect use case to be able to build a product like this, because ultimately, insurance works really well when you have a really high correlation with the loss. I mean, that's ultimately the definition of indemnity or indemnification, to get back the individual to where they were from before the loss occurred. And so this was a perfect case study, because you have these tornadoes, which are a defined path of damage. And if someone's in that defined path of damage, they're most likely to have at least a few $1,000s worth of damage. And so that really became the start of the Sola program. We had this idea for this tornado product that we wanted to get up and running, and we started working on that. And I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit as well, but even before we launched the tornado program, we knew we needed to launch really our full wind and hail comprehensive program.
Sure.
Because ultimately, while tornadoes affect thousands of homeowners a year, hail affects millions of homeowners a year. And I'm sure we'll get into some of the issues related to hail.
Don't get as much media coverage, maybe, though.
Yes, exactly. I think people don't. I mean, obviously, what happened in the wildfires and the Palisades was terrible, but those events certainly are rare. I mean, that was a $50 billion event, and hail caused $60 billion last year, and has consistently caused mid-$100 million losses for the last 5 years, and has been larger than wildfire and hurricane combined, which, as you just mentioned, most people don't realize. But I think ultimately, if you're to define the thesis of Sola and what we're trying to solve for, is that, I mean, as we all know, there's a lot of fraud in insurance, whether specifically in property insurance, and especially as it relates to natural disasters.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do is build an insurance product that reduces the amount of fraud we have to deal with, therefore lowering our loss ratio, and then being able to pass those savings on to the homeowner. So that's ultimately the thesis and what we're building at Sola. And we realized that level of fraud was out of all the natural disasters, was the highest in hail. And so that really became our business model and our opportunity.
Are you much heavier on your policy count on the wind and hail product?
Yes, yeah. So we launched our tornado product a little over 2 years ago, and we launched our wind and hail product 11 months ago. And I mean, our wind and hail product is inclusive of tornado as well, so it's more so like kind of an addition. But I mean, it makes up like
Why?
more than 95% of our business now.
Why did you do it that way? I mean, certainly it's obvious to somebody who understands, the how vast hail risk is versus tornado risk. But why did you start that way?
Why we start with tornado and then get the wind and hail eventually? I think at the time, I mean, hail was such a complicated issue, and for us to get reinsurance and proper underwriting on it, I don't even think our team necessarily had the right information or funds or expertise at the time, or trust. I mean, trust is a really important thing with our reinsurance partners, to be able to dive into such a significant peril that, like I said, causes tens of billions of dollars of losses every single year. And so I think, like I said, tornadoes was this like really interesting case study where it was really obvious of like where the damage path was. And so that was a much easier product to start with and convince underwriters that they should back a program like this, because it's kind of very identifiable. And wind and hail is where it becomes a lot more complicated. And so I think as we launched our tornado program and we developed a lot of the underwriting chops and insurance expertise, we became a lot better at what was eventually needed to then launch our wind and hail product at a later point.
What's the next product?
So the way I like to phrase this is that, like I said, our thesis at Sola is that we're trying to identify the spaces in insurance where there is significant fraud, build a product that greatly reduces that fraud, therefore lowering our loss ratio and passing those savings on to the homeowner. Out of all natural disasters in the U.S., we know that hail has the largest amount of fraud in terms of dollar value. And so we see that as our biggest opportunity out of any other new product that we could expand into. And so I think for right now, we have a really strong and significant runway just on our wind and hail product. And also, for those who don't know, a lot of home insurance carriers are starting to segment out wind and hail coverage as a part of home insurance. It really used to be covered as a kind of major peril, but now wind and hail deductibles are so high that they're effectively excluding most, or home insurance carriers are excluding most of the hail coverage or hail claims that used to occur.
By putting in a super high deductible that's nearly unachievable.
Exactly.
And so is that what your play is to create a bridge between that high deductible and something that's reasonable?
Yeah, you're exactly right. The average wind and hail claim is about $13,000, and the average roof replacement cost is about $13,000. And so you could see how the majority of kind of wind and hail related home insurance claims are due to roof coverages. But now as we talk to our agents in Texas, for example, I mean, a lot of them are telling us they can't find, especially like North Texas, like Dallas or whatever, or even Oklahoma, Kansas, they can't find policies, home insurance policies that have a wind and hail deductible that's less than 2%. And that's less than 2% of the coverage A or the total home's insurable value. And so average home there is about, $500,000, 2% of that's $10,000. So we're starting to see, like, at the minimum, not even like the average, but the minimum are about like these $10,000 wind and hail deductibles. And so it only goes up from there. And then again, like you just said, you get to a point where the wind and hail deductibles are higher than the cost to replace the roof, effectively excluding roof coverage altogether, which is one of the most common claims in home insurance.
So, well, that's very interesting. You said that you're particularly fraud sensitive, and helping as a fraud solution. Explain how you do that, or why that is.
Yeah. So the home insurance carriers are in a really tricky position right now because, like I said, if you have a roof claim that's about $10,000, or let's just take $15,000. If you have a roof claim that's about $15,000 and you have let's go back 5 years when the average deductible used to be $1,000 or $2,000. If you filed a claim for that, you paid for $1,000 of your deductible, and then the roof cost $15,000, so the insurance company gave you $14,000. That was great. But now hail claims have increased so much, and a lot of these roofers and contractors have become very opportunistic in terms of going after homes as soon as a hailstorm came through, saying, hey, I can get your roof replaced and your insurance company to pay for it, even before looking at the roof and whether or not that homeowner actually needed a new roof or not. And so what that ultimately led to is home insurance carriers losing tens of billions of dollars in hail-related losses each year. And so, as we were just talking about, to combat this, they've been raising wind and hail deductibles to ultimately try to dissuade homeowners from filing hail insurance claims. But now the only problem is, if you fast forward to today, if you have a $10,000 deductible and that same roof costs $15,000 to replace, if the homeowner files a claim for that $10,000 roof and wants to get a new roof, it might not even be worth the insurance company's time to investigate whether or not it's fraud or manufactured, or if that homeowner actually needs a new roof. And so these home insurance companies have been getting to a place, whether it be increasing the wind and hail deductible or switching from replacement cost to actual cash value, which subtracts depreciation, to a point where it's not even worth the insurance company's time to investigate these claims, because the cost of investigating it would be more than the claim itself. And so our strategy around using more wind and hail data to be able to trigger these payouts enables us to be really confident about who are paying out and who are not paying out, and which home needs to get a new roof and which one doesn't, which enables us, like I said, to greatly reduce that fraud, lower our loss ratios, and then pass those savings on to the homeowner.
So walk us through a Sola claim, just so that we understand how you guys come into play. First of all, it's also one of the things that's curious to me is how do you sell this? So I'm guessing that, like in Texas, as an example, where it's not easy to get home insurance anymore.
Yeah.
The agent says, hey, I can get you written your homeowner's policy with this company, and we'll bring Sola in underneath it or in combination with it. And so the two of them together will take care of you. Is that kind of the pitch that homeowners are hearing? And then once the claim hit, then pick up and tell us about the claim process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're exactly right. Our policy is becoming a fundamental part of home insurance and the total home insurance package. Like, without our coverage, I mean, homeowners would feel kind of incomplete.
They're exposed. They're fully exposed.
Exactly. And so in terms of our claims process, it is completely separate and not involved from how the home insurance carrier will run their claims process. I mean, they'll run it however they do. I mean, our average settlement time has been a few days. So obviously faster than kind of industry standard in the property insurance space. And then in terms of how it works, ultimately a homeowner will reach out to us whether they think they had hail damage or need to get the roof replaced. We will backdate that with the wind and hail data that we have and ultimately determine if their roof needs to be replaced by a variety of factors, whether it be like hail size, hail diameter, hail density. And so we get, as well as property characteristics, roof age, a lot of these variables that ultimately determine when a roof objectively needs to get replaced, and not necessarily what a roofer or contractor may or may not say. And then the process is then from there, we'll collect some photos and videos. And like I said, usually our claims process is about a few days. So we'll get them paid quickly and back on their feet.
So it was my understanding about now we're going to bring in the parametric side and the definitions and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's my understanding about parametrics that it's essentially, if it happened, you get a check. If it didn't happen, here's the parameters. It has to be wind of this much speed, hail of this much size, and it had to happen in your neighborhood, and if all those things are met, here's a check. Is that really how it works?
That's how parametric insurance works. And our program is kind of in between parametric and indemnity.
Can we call it a hybrid?
Yeah, hybrid for sure. And so the way I think for like parametric insurance has been around for 20 or 30 years. It's certainly nothing new. And it has existed more significantly on large commercial policies where you have usually some sorts of business interruption or potentially governments who would buy policies like this when if you have an earthquake in one area, that significantly affects the welfare of people and the economy. And so the traditional definition of parametric insurance has been very useful for those cases. The only problem is when you bring that down to the consumer level, if you're just kind of paying out based on that parameter, regardless of if there's insurable loss or anything that happened, I mean, ultimately, in our belief, you're not creating a useful product, right? I think, insurance is indemnity-based product and is used to pay people out when they have a loss. And even though we're kind of taking notes of parametric insurance from our product, ultimately, we want to just build the best product possible. I mean, our goal isn't to get caught up in the definitions of like, what is indemnity, what is parametric insurance. Our goal is to make our homeowners whole after they lose a roof because of a hailstorm. And so we're sitting here in Atlanta thinking about the best ways to construct an insurance product to fulfill that obligation. And so we're not necessarily caught up about the definition of like, what is indemnity insurance, what is parametric insurance. And I think products, at least as it relates to the consumer, that don't have a high correlation with the loss really don't make sense in the insurance market.
So you're admitted in how many states, or you're working in how many states?
15 states.
Is that an admitted product?
So we have two programs. We have an admitted and E&S. So we recently announced that we're a Lloyd's coverholder. And so in some states, we're writing on Lloyd's paper, and others, we're an admitted program.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And so this big old nasty storm cell comes through and drops, baseball size hail in the area. Then and you have a bunch of homeowners policies that their primary homeowners policy is with let's just say a $10,000 deductible on wind and hail. Then what happens?
Yeah, if they need a new roof, we'll pay out. We just went through that. The end of May, about in St. Louis and Northwest Arkansas, there was a massive hailstorm that really went through the middle part of the country, and we dealt with exactly that. And we had great reactions from homeowners and our insurance agents, and the product worked exactly as they expected it to. Even better, we were able to pay out really quickly and get them back on their feet. And yeah.
And in a situation like that, do you typically pay policy limits?
So yes, as it relates to like the hail side of the program, like I said, ultimately we believe like when we're paying out, the roof needs to be replaced. And so it's ultimately up to the agent of what limit they decide to bind for their homeowner. But usually we see that they're matching the Sola limits to the wind and hail deductible of the home insurance.
And those claims are coming in now. I'm just asking because I'm a claims geek.
Yeah.
How do they come in? Does the homeowner reach out to you guys, or is typically through the agent?
We've had both. Homeowners reach out to us, agents reach out to us. We have a lot of different resources. We spend a lot of time. We know that this product is unique and different from anything that a lot of people in the insurance world have been using.
Sure, they wouldn't even. Homeowners probably don't even. They know that they have it, but they don't know exactly what it does.
And that's why we are very, very intentional about the insurance agents that we appoint. We are not we're not opening the floodgates and bringing on every insurance agent under the sun. Our sales team is made up of territory sales managers and account managers, and are very, very intentional about insurance agents that bring on that have a very reputable or have a very good reputation in their community, have a history of dealing with their homeowners claims very well. We look at their Google reviews. We look at how many years or decades that they've been around. Really only appoint the best insurance agents because we want the best insurance agents representing our program, because we ultimately know those are the ones who are really going to listen and be confident in what we're offering and see the usefulness that it can add to their homeowners. So at the time of either selling the policy or at the time of claim, the agents are right there with the homeowners, helping them get through the recovery process.
Hey, Rob, guess what?
What's that, Lee?
I got my bag all packed. I'm ready.
Your bag packed? Why?
I got my backpack, man. We're going to ITC London. It's almost time.
But Lee, that's in January in London.
Well, I'm excited. What can I say? I'm excited. We're going to pack, we're going to go, and we're going to be ready. January 26th and 27th, we're going to be over in London at ITC London. Can't wait to see all of our friends, executives from around the country, around the world. They're all going to be there. Can't wait to do it.
We were there last year. It was fabulous. We hope to see you there this year. Cheers.
Cheers.
Are you working directly with any carriers?
So we are not working directly with carriers, but we have agencies that are subsidiaries of carriers that we work with. And so a lot of the carriers themselves have independent agency networks as a part of the carrier for them to be able to sell other products that are not just that carrier's product. Mm-hmm. And we work with a few of those.
I'm wondering if any carriers have come up with the idea of selling a separate policy.
Yeah.
Similar to yours.
We've spoken to a lot of carriers. I mean, they're obviously really intrigued by what we're doing because ultimately they're losing a lot of money and on these hail claims and are trying to get rid of the risk so that they can run profitably and will come in and help with these higher wind and hail deductibles. So it's certainly been a very strong value add for everyone in the insurance value chain, the insurance companies, the insurance agents, and of course, and most importantly, the homeowners themselves. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I think what we've just found is that like we invented this product.
That's cool. That's really cool.
The problem, this wasn't even a problem 5 years ago per se. Like the average wind and hail deductible.
Correct.
There wasn't even a wind and hail deductible. It used to just be a flat.
No, it was your deductible.
Exactly.
You had a deductible and there was a hailstorm and you got a new roof and that was the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. And so in terms of a lot of these carriers, like I said, we really invented this product and we built a lot of really proprietary understanding of this wind and hail data. I mean, I would argue if you actually look back at the history of insurance policies and how it was standardized, it started back in 1971 when ISO was formed, or the Insurance Services Office was formed. And it was originally formed as a nonprofit as all of these insurance companies came together to try to standardize their policy forms. Fast forward today, the Insurance Services Office, or ISO, is now a for-profit organization under the Verisk umbrella. And so as a result of this, a lot of these home insurance carriers, again, they're not even owners of the policies themselves. It's this 40, 50-year-old ISO form that, while yes, has been tried and tested in a lot of different court trials and works really well, I think we're just seeing is starting to not work so well, at least for these hail and roof claims. And so for a lot of it's not like someone can just kind of come and create what we did. I mean, there was a lot of learning and development on the weather side from us growing our tornado program to our wind and hail program, and then developing the reinsurance and agency relationships that we have so far.
Tell us why the weather data, I mean, on the one hand, this is an obvious question, but on the other hand, why are you so data-driven around weather data? Mm-hmm. I mean, can't you just get pictures from the people and that's the end of it?
Yeah, I mean, my response to that is that's what every carrier has been doing. And we've kind of seen that has contributed to, or that has led to kind of the opportunistic roofers and contractors that have been extremely crafty in how they understand also the weather data itself, and also to be able to manufacture and fabricate these roof claims. And so I think ultimately we don't want to be in the same position because we want to offer affordable wind and hail coverage. And so the weather data is so important to us because ultimately what leads to a roof needing to be replaced is very highly correlative with what that specific storm system looked like what were all the variables within that storm system. And so us being so clued and tuned into what that data is enables us to be extremely accurate with how we deal with claims, and to not only be profitable from a loss ratio perspective, but also provide great coverage that really is there when homeowners need it.
Are you profitable?
So on the loss ratio side, yes.
From a loss ratio standpoint.
Yeah,
I mean, you're building a business. That's one thing.
absolutely.
On the insurance, from the actual insurance.
Yes, yeah. Our reinsurers are really I mean, actually, just after this hailstorm, they shared with us that they got hammered on their commercial property insurance book and had loss ratios way over 100%. And they had our program, which was a similar risk from the standpoint of hail, obviously different risk from like how it worked, and covering residential, and performed significantly better than how their program has. And so we're seeing a lot of reinsurers come to the table, and our existing partners have been fantastic and are just continuing to double down on our approach as we expand our business. And I think we're just continuing to keep that up.
You talked about fraud. When fraud and hail those are two words that are always in the same sentence.
Yes.
And it's for those of people listening who don't work with hail much, it's a significant problem. Mm-hmm. How do you guys help to control for that?
Yeah, it goes back to the weather data. It's really our insight into, okay, what were all previous hailstorms that hit in the past 10 years? What was the current hailstorm that hit? What are all the variables within that hailstorm that ultimately led to the current roof condition? And so, like I said before, in the situation with home insurance carriers where it's not even worth their time to investigate, we're in a different boat where we don't. It's really based off of kind of like the weather data rather than the weather data and all the variables within it, rather than having like taking a roofer contractor's word about, oh, this roof is in shambles and it needs to be replaced.
Right. Or this is new damage, mm-hmm. not old damage.
Exactly. I mean,
which is the big problem.
That's another issue too. I mean, a lot of claims are being filed with hailstorms that could have happened a year ago are now being kind of brought up today as there could have been a roof damage like a year later. But obviously, I mean, if you've been living under a roof for the last year and there have been no significant hailstorms and it's been fine, obviously a lot is kind of brought into question of whether a new roof is actually needed or not.
Mm-hmm. So you're clearly kind of an insurance geek. And I say that with admiration.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you came to where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm innately very curious. I love I've always been interested in a lot of like industries that have been around for forever. I've always been interested in finance, supply chain, like different logistics businesses, like things that have just been around for forever, and understanding how the industry and society got to the way it is today. I mean, obviously, I'm also an engineering technology background as well, so I'm fascinated with what's happening with AI and different technologies related to there. But also at the same time, really, or energy. I mean, those are things that like really intrigue me. And so, like I said, when I grew up on Long Island and went through Hurricane Sandy and ended up joining this flood insurance startup and spent a lot of time learning about the industry through there. And then through the process of forming this company, I mean, I think our fresh perspective matched with our innate curiosity to understand the industry and not butt heads with it, but exactly the opposite, actually work really strongly with it. Like I said, where a lot of these traditional carriers, it's not that we're competing with them. I mean, they don't want this risk. In fact, they're actively looking to get away from this risk. And we've identified a solution to provide coverage and enter this risk. And so, and we've done it in a way where we've made really all parties in the insurance ecosystem happy. Like I said, the homeowners.
Very, very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Absolutely. I think we've seen a lot of InsureTechs who have maybe taken a different approach earlier on where they wanted to butt heads with the industry, and we've heard the word disrupt a lot. But I mean, ultimately, I think what we're seeing now today is that I mean, yes, it's great that they've gotten to that place, but they've really reversed their stance in a sense that they are working with the industry in a much stronger capacity than they originally set out to when a lot of these earlier InsureTechs founded their company. And so I think we're seeing all InsureTechs work significantly with the industry rather than saying they're trying to butt heads with it. And I think that's ultimately what just creates a great ecosystem, right? A lot of people still competing in a sense. A lot of the InsureTechs pushed a lot of the incumbents to deliver a better user experience, more transparency, a better brand. And I think a lot of those incumbents followed suit a few years after. I mean, they're certainly not close to where some of those InsureTechs are from a maybe user experience perspective, but getting a lot closer, and I think have contributed positively to the industry. But I think ultimately everyone's just realized is that we're all kind of working together and we're all pushing each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it's really interesting when somebody can come in and solve a problem that incumbents can't seem to find a way to solve. That's unusual. There's lots of people who say that they've done it, that's one thing, but actually achieving that is another. So what was it like going through? You must have been a kid during Hurricane Sandy.
Yes, yeah, I was certainly young. I mean, I went out to I remember I went out to the shore and I volunteered during that time. And again, I was just I was fascinated that this event can really impact tens of thousands, if not hundreds and millions of people. And I've always, I mean, ever since I was young, always wanted to work on something that impacted a lot of people. When we really first started Sola, we thought we were going to kind of license our technology and our idea out in the beginning. But ultimately, I think we realized if we wanted to have the impact on the most amount of people possible and get out into market and actually establish ourselves, we needed to build a lot from scratch and build it from the ground up, build our own identity, our brand, our own underwriting practice, our own agency relationships. And then we went out and did that.
How InsureTech is your underwriting process?
It was built all from scratch. What's really interesting is we have taken our models and what we've built and we've put them in the kind of Verisk air catastrophe models or the RMS catastrophe models, because ultimately the way our reinsurers need to understand our business is by the simulations and things that have been around for the last few decades. And so
Sure.
We put a lot of our solutions into there. But ultimately, every single time, our model is built very specifically for our use case. And so it's really hard to dial in exactly what you need to in these these industry standard cat models, because it's not built for a parametric or a kind of pseudo parametric solution. It's based off of really this indemnity solution where and the history of indemnity is really based off the likelihood of a homeowner to file a claim, not based off the likelihood of an actual peril to occur. And so that's how a lot of these cat models have been constructed, which is why a lot of premium is so heavily weighted on previous claims filed or things like credit score, for example, because it's so dependent on how much of a risk they assess you as an individual rather than maybe the objectivity of a hailstorm, which again doesn't necessarily care about your credit score or how many claims you filed previously. And so parts of the insurance claims that we can find as objective as possible, we're trying to go after in a sense.
So it's interesting. Lee and I have been to London several times, and we've been working on, we just opened our company opened a London office. We're active in that marketplace. How did you come to your relationship with Lloyd's?
Yeah, Lloyd's has been fantastic. I mean, for a very kind of brief history, I mean, about 350 years ago, people were setting out merchant ships, and a lot of these merchant ships were getting sunk by either pirates or weather. And a lot of these very wealthy individuals in the UK were sponsoring a lot of these kind of merchant ships. And no one wants to have a ship go down and lose all of their net worth. And so what happened is Edward Lloyd formed a coffee house in London before these ships went out, where a lot of where a lot of the merchants would come together, wealthy families would come together, captains of the ship would come together to ultimately pool the risk so that if an insurance or if a ship failed, at least they're just on the hook for the annual premiums, but not devastating their net worth by having a significant loss. And that really became a significant part of the history of insurance. Fast forward, Lloyd's became the first people to pioneer motorcycle insurance and satellite insurance, and have really done a great job in all of the syndicates or reinsurance companies within Lloyd's, which has really become this marketplace for finding interesting insurance or things that can't be covered in the standard market. A lot of these reinsurance syndicates have appointed kind of like heads of innovation, or Lloyd specifically has a mandate to allocate a certain small percentage of reinsurance capacity to innovation related projects. And so,
well, they have their lab.
Exactly. I mean, that as well, which we participated in. Yes. Yeah. About 2 years ago.
You went through the program?
Yeah, we went through the Lloyd's Lab program. It was great. Like I said, I mean, Lloyd's is really the place where interesting new insurance ideas happen. And so it was a no-brainer for us to join that program.
So was the lab experience super helpful in finding the partners that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was immensely helpful. I mean, I think at the end of the day, right, like underwriters just want to understand the risk of the program. And before you have written $1 of premium, it's hard to understand the risk of the program. And so you have to be really creative about how you think about modeling and pulling in different weather data sets and information to try to portray what kind of risk and what needs to be charged that an underwriter might be reinsuring and jumping into. And that's ultimately just really hard to do virtually. I mean, it's the same reason we're in person here in Atlanta. It's because when you have some esoteric ideas or complicated ideas, it's just hard for it to get off the ground when you're in a remote first environment, or if you're trying to kind of break into a new market that's really been undiscovered. It's hard to do so simply because people are busy when you're not in person, and things don't happen quickly when you're not in person. And so it was funny. We joined the Lloyd's Lab and we weren't sure if we were going to be there in person for the full time. And as soon as we got there with like that first week, Jeff, my CTO and co-founder, realized, he was like, I need to be here for the full 3 months. Like, we have gotten so much done and made so much faster progress in this first week than we had been, because we were already in contact with reinsurance syndicates for a few months before then. And we got so much done in the first week as we compared it to the previous months when we were kind of going back and forth over email. And so, like I said, I think really with these innovation-related things where it's not necessarily a tried and true program like your standard home insurance carrier, standard HO3 policy, but rather this kind of new hybrid parametric indemnity approach really lent itself to needing to work with these individuals as much as we can in person. And that's also why we do quarterly visits and we spend a week or 2 weeks there, because if we need to get something done, it works way better when we're able to do it in person.
We absolutely love it there. I mean, we don't have anything that's really comparable in the United States where you can go someplace and see everybody.
Yeah.
And talk to everybody, and of course, drink with everybody. And it's a fabulous thing. And let's be honest, key to the success that you've enjoyed, because once again, as I've said many times, it ain't what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
And when you can meet people and look at them in the eye, and you can sit with them and explain a complex or new idea, and that's awesome. So you've indicated to me that you're growing, that things are happening. Tell us what we can look for in the couple of minutes we have left. Tell us what we can look forward to from Sola.
Yeah, absolutely. I think ultimately, kind of, we touched on this before, but our program has just been continuing to get kind of more and more impactful to homeowners and agents over time, especially with the kind of macro home insurance economic trends going on with, again, higher and higher wind and hail deductibles, and Sola just becoming a more attractive proposition. And I think kind of people say this, and with new ideas or new companies, it's kind of like slowly happens and then all at once. And so I mean, we're growing really well. Like I said, we're being really selective about what agents we're bringing on. But yeah, we're expanding the team. We just went through hail season, and we have another one coming up, and we've been preparing for that. So I think just kind of continued expansion as our product really becomes a ubiquitous solution for all 50 million homeowners across the Midwest and Southeast in these wind and hail related states. So more state expansion, more agency expansion. We're hiring. We're bringing on a lot of territory managers, account managers, products people, marketing. I mean, we're hiring in every department of our business as we establish ourselves with significant trust as the go-to provider for really, I mean, the primary home wind and hail coverage.
And I would think that like DLIs would be hitting you up.
Yes, they've been really excited about what we're doing. I mean, I was actually just speaking to the Oklahoma commissioner the other day, and he was talking about our solution to his insurance agents as a way to manage high home insurance premiums in the state of Oklahoma.
Totally.
Exactly. And we're starting to see, we have great relationships with regulators. And I mean, ultimately, they're just looking out for the best interests of the homeowner. And that's why we developed the program, right? I mean, we want to build something that's in the best interest of the homeowner.
Yeah. They have insurance.
When you have values are aligned, I mean, we can all help each other. So
that's great. And like you said, when everybody in the chain is happy, that's pretty awesome. And congratulations on your success. And we really appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's catch up sometime in the future.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Lee brings up a great question today, folks. First of all, thanks so much to Wesley for a great episode. Fascinating play Sola Insurance is, and we encourage you to check it out further. And one thing we want to ask you, all of our loyal listeners, all three of you, do we need to do an outro? That's what this is right now. This is what
we call a market study. How many of you listen to the outro? How many of you love the outro? How many of you want the outro?
Right.
We would love to hear from you on that.
Please let us know what you think. And if you do, we'll send you a F&O InsureTech smoking jacket as soon as they arrive.
As soon as they get in. Yes.
Yeah.
There.
Now on back order.
Still a little back ordered.
7 years.
COVID is still catching up to some of us, but it's on its way. It's on its way.
7 years on back order.
Yeah. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know.
Thanks to Wesley for being with us today, and to all you for listening, and to our intrepid producer, Israel, for everything that he does. And until next time.
Goodbye, everybody.